It is the 23rd. This is live with myself, Spider, and our special guest Hayden from Pop Culture. So welcome
Hello.
everybody.
Hi,
Hi,
thank you so much
everybody.
for having me on. Been very excited to come on this podcast.
Yeah, I know we've had discussion back and forth a little bit on Twitter. So I appreciate you accepting because this is actually cool. A lot of this is something that we've talked about. Just to give a little bit of background about Quiddcast, we've talked to Spider and myself have talked about this for over a year now, because when we used to do AMAs with Michael, people would stay on and listen to us, and all we would do is talk about collecting and what we like to do while we were on Quid. So it's awesome to be able to have somebody from one of the brands that's on the app to kind of talk about what brought you to Quid and everything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really exciting app to be on. Our story is very it's kind of like a moment of luck that happened. We've always been in the IP generation business. My father owns one of the largest photo archives exists called Globe Photos. And one day he was introduced to Yatsui, and Yatsui is the founder of Animoca. And my dad was showing him some stuff that we created. And one thing we created was our wonderful vinyl Nyaching, which is our Japanese lucky cat. And the first thing Yatsui said when he saw that was, "Oh my God, you guys have to put this on Quid. I have to introduce you to the people of Quid and get that on." And we just kind of did an impromptu drop with Quid, and it was a huge success. And so we thought, okay, well, if this really works, what else could we bring to the platform? And one of our good friends, Todd Goldman, who we've done some work with in the past, one of the biggest brand artists, had a company called David and Goliath, and worked with Hot Topic. We introduced his Underwearable series to Quid, and that also sold out. And so ever since those two programs, we decided oh man, we just want to get everything we can on Quid, all the best stuff, because this is obviously a really fun community of people who love to collect, who get collecting. And ever since then, we've basically just been working full time, bringing awesome products to Quid.
Yeah, and I know a lot of us appreciate that. It was kind of cool to see Todd Goldman, and then finding out that you were kind of responsible for bringing him our way. Because I know, as you said, he's done a lot of stuff in Hot Topic, and I was a Hot Topic kid, so I have seen a lot of his work. But that may not be what I bought back then at Hot Topic. But it's pretty cool to see names like that on the app, and then I know you have history with the LA Comic Con. And then, like you said, the Nyaching. You've also brought us. We have the Bored Ape Social Club that's coming up, and then the Summer at the Cinema, which the Summer at the Cinema I know was from your dad's company, correct? That was where a lot of those posters were digitally enhanced, so to speak.
Yes, we licensed out a lot of these photos from Globe Photos, of all the different posters to use for Quid, and it was one of those drops where we weren't expecting it to be such a huge success, but everyone really loved these old movie posters. And one thing I love about the whole digital sphere and these e-collectibles is it's a way to take these collectibles and give them new life, right? There's a lot of old, for example, movie posters that would be forgotten about because it was from a movie from the 1940s or 50s or 60s. And these posters would just no longer have any life to them. But by bringing them to a new platform, you're really turning these assets into just something different, right? It's like an iterative process, and it makes it so these cultural icons exist forever.
Yeah, and I think the benefit, one of the things I know that did so well with those is I know some of the people who spent quite a bit on those. Is one, like you said, those are classic movies. A lot of the names on there are recognizable. I mean, you had James Bond in there, you had Marilyn Monroe, you had a lot of the old. I mean, you had Alfred Hitchcock in there. I mean, you had a lot of the cult classics that people know from that era. And then on top of it, to be able to win a physical poster, I mean, that's just like the cherry on top. Because I mean, a lot of people in the community, we do all have a physical collection of items. There's people who have huge Star Wars collections. I mean, I myself have collected Funko for years, as well as you have people who collect sports cards. But we all share that same love of collecting something that kind of identifies us.
Oh yeah, I mean, collection is one of these things that's intrinsic to humanity, right? And it was so fun during the Nyaching horoscope drop. I hopped into the Quid Discord and started talking to a lot of the power users. And everyone just started sharing their collections and their setups, like garages filled with different things of everything they love, right?
Mhm.
And it's one of those things when you think about things, what we like collect is when I was young, I used to collect state quarters where each state, like California, Nevada, everyone had their own different quarters. And I would search so hard and wide to put these quarters inside a board. And I think that's really important too, is that when you have a collectible, you want to show it off. It's like part of you. It's an extension of who you are. It's a way to represent your personality. So by giving out physical awards along with the digital collectibles, it's a really just intrinsic human way of being able to show what you've done and what you've accomplished.
Yeah, I would agree. Did you ever finish the quarters? I know exactly what you're talking about because I have one of those books that I think I finally completed until they started doing I think they did national monuments and stuff like that. They
Mhm.
started adding more to it. I collected all the states and I'm like, okay, this is too much.
I used to
Yeah,
collect
I mean, that's probably ends up
with I collected them with my grandpa. It was like our thing to do. It was collecting the new quarters.
Yeah, and when I was young, I was always, I was probably like 8 or 9 at the time, so I was always so proud to collect them, just finding a quarter. And like, I'm going to be honest, it was probably my dad putting a quarter somewhere in the house for me to find, and I would get so excited and be like, "Oh my God, I'm doing it!" And yeah, I managed to finish the 50 state collectors board. I never got onto like the national monuments one. I feel like if I would have done that, that would have just been like the end of me. It seems like such a hard chase to complete.
What well, if you're, most collectors, you want to try to find like the shiniest quarter to put in your book. That was always my thing. I want the best looking one. And so if you found a better one when you got change back, you're like, oh, you opened a new roll of quarters. What state is this?
Yeah. Well, and I also play a lot of video games, as I'm sure most people on Quid do. So my big one right now is World of Warcraft, and I'm trying so hard not to get sucked into the new expansion. And one thing about World of Warcraft is there is a continuous chase of upgrading items and getting just slightly better and better items. So it's kind of like how I relate to like the quarters is that, oh, this item is just ever so slightly better. So let's just plop it out and plop in a new one. And it's just one of these eternal things that I don't know why it's so intrinsic to people, that we just need to collect things, that, we need to have these things in the house. If I look to my right, I've got a shelf that's filled with a whole bunch of fun stuff, like a little like toy robot, and I've got one of the Niaching vinyls and everything.
Are the Niaching vinyls, are those done? I know they're like close. It's close, right?
They're so close. I just got an email last night about the vinyls inside an actual box. And so we got a clear window box so no one has to take their vinyl out in order to show it off. You can just put it on your desk. And we're getting some like gold foil to put on the box too. So it's really special. And the funniest thing with this drop is that the Year of the Tiger drop in the Year of the Tiger vinyl is going to be finished by the end of the year. So I wish we would have gotten to start a little bit earlier so we could have it for the actual Year of the Tiger. But if you give me 1 second, I actually grab the vinyl right now.
Oh.
Run off and get
awesome. We got a preview of the actual. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so this is one of the production samples. We made 2, and we had 2 production samples from 2 different manufacturers, and we gave one of them away for the Niaching drop. And this is the second one, and it just sits and looks at me every single day, and it just makes me so happy because it's so cute.
Yeah. That's a lot bigger than I was expecting. Like, I didn't know how big it was,
Yeah.
but that's
really cool. It's pretty good size. I'd love to have
it. Oh yeah, like this is a massive one. I think the final product is going to be a little bit smaller because of a time constraint, but it's still going to be very nice and look really great on your shelf.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it's something, collection is just something that's been around forever. My dad, when he was a kid, he used to collect cowrie shells, like these little puka shells, cowrie shells you'd find on the beach. And like one thing I love about collection too is that it's generational. And so I remember with my dad, when I was a kid, he gave me this bottle of cowrie shells that I had sitting on my desk forever. And it's a way of connecting and kind of like passing along generational interests and just bonding with your family, essentially.
Yeah, that's essentially that's a perfect
what's weird
point.
is we do that on Quid. Just to bring up the history of Quid. I've been here since the app started. So I was a month after they went live originally, and a best friend now still today that I met on Quid. One my best friends, and I have a lot of friends that because common, we all collected the same things and we liked the same things, and becoming really good friends over the like shared collectible, like obsessive collectibles because we were obsessed. But totally.
Oh, so you're like a true Quid OG.
Yeah, you could say that. I worked my way up.
And that's what I've noticed with Quid too. And what I really admire is that a lot of people who seem to do work with Quid or starting podcasts or are hires or anything are actual Quid collectors. So it's not like it's just a bunch of random people dictating a community. It's a really community involved project, this whole thing.
Yeah, 100%. I would agree 100%. I know Spyder. I mean, I've known Spyder because I started in 2017, and when they had first started a mod program is kind of how I had came to meet Spyder, and we've kind of been friends ever since. And you just kind of grow. Like a lot of us that have been here for a long time, we've grown together, and you start helping each other out. You share common interest. I mean, I've had people send me stuff. I've had people send like my kids stuff, like for my kids' birthdays. They send something for my son for his birthday. So shout out
crazy.
Kid Cutter. I know he's in the chat. I was like, I know he's in the chat.
We've done gift exchange, all kinds of stuff. We've done multiple exchanges with the community. Like when we I mean, we did them with moms a couple years back. We're not so much. A lot of us are friends. Instead of just on an app, we all became friends.
That's so brilliant. I mean, you could even do something like a white elephant exchange. You know, maybe it's going to be really hard to program, obviously, but like there's things you could do like that where people can just exchange gifts and, you know, throw something out there and get something free in return. I don't know. It's really cool. I love it. And it's one of those things too, at like when you're talking about building common interests and friendships, that's one thing we love to see at the Los Angeles Comic-Con is you have the greatest group of nerds in the world come there and they're dressed up in the most awesome outfits. And I'm not a cosplayer myself, but I look at all the cosplayers and it like blows my mind that I'm like, oh my God, you have so much passion, not just passion, but creativity and
dedication.
Dedication and the ability to execute on it, right? To be able to create this amazing outfit and go out and stand around with your friends and take photos. And it's definitely the highlight of my week is going to the Los Angeles Comic-Con and just standing there and taking photos with everyone. I freaking love it. It's really the best.
Well, especially some of those people. I mean, I've known people who cosplay. They'll take almost a full year.
Yeah, they'll start working
on
it like after the end.
Yeah.
Well, we have a place we call the Comic-Con Metaverse. It's a project we're currently developing, and we want to make it the like international global hub for all cosplay and anime. And basically, you know, you have something like 600 conventions throughout the world. So to be able to conglomerate them all online in one space where they rotate out, you introduce every convention to a global audience with global like friends that you can start making globally. And we just threw our first cosplay contest in there. And the winner of the cosplay contest got a free ticket to the Los Angeles Comic-Con where we are going to fly her out. And she's going to be, I think she's a finalist now at the actual international cosplay contest. And when she won, she was so happy and crying. And it was just like, you can see the passion that they put into it when they really, really like just dress themselves up. And also like the willingness to experiment with like different creative pursuits. Because the Comic-Con Metaverse, it's definitely new and it's something we're still developing and figuring out. And you have all these cosplayers saying like, this is awesome. We totally see like how this could help us and how we could like basically expand our cosplay globally. It's very cool.
That's something that's amazing.
Because essentially that would
be recognized for too. Recognition
exactly.
for all that they've done.
Yeah, just to be able to like have the whole stage and the audience watch you. It's really brilliant. I wish I was creative enough to do that. Like the best I do is on Halloween doing a full dress up, but even that is like super exhausting.
And it gives more exposure too, because like it could give exposure on a global scale. Because there are some cosplayers out there that maybe aren't as recognized as others, but that could open that door to where somebody in another country could like a lot of those. It's very much like most communities. You have your cosplayer community, and they'll give tips to each other of like, oh, how did you create the helmet, or how did you wire this for your lights? Like if you make an Iron Man costume, like how'd you wire it so like it like your lights actually work, or how is it mechanical? Because I've seen some crazy costumes. That's one of my favorite things to look at is after Comic Cons is you go on Twitter and you look and see like, all right, what were the best of the best? Like what do we have people have going on?
Right, like where they actually have moving parts and wings. Like you can see people who are like a Gundam and their wings actually start going up and down. And you're like, oh my God, this is incredible. But then you realize, oh my gosh, this is like a single person who put this together, who is just in their free time, who developed this. And like that, just, it blows my mind. And part of the metaverse, like one of our mottos is that we want to democratize creativity, because someone's creativity from Europe is going to be someone different than someone's creativity from North America, than South America, than Africa, than Asia. So by building a platform that is easy to access and global, you can start really seeing what people want to design. If you go to San Diego Comic-Con or Los Angeles Comic-Con or New York Comic-Con, you kind of see the costumes of the people around that area, but you don't see someone from like, maybe there's a comic book fan in, let's say, Ethiopia. You don't see how they envision what a superhero would be and what they idolize. And the whole idea of superheroes too, or they're the best of what we can be. If you look at like Batman, for example, all of Batman's villains are what Batman could be if he embraced the negative aspects. And so to be able to like, our negative aspects in North America would be different than those in a different country. And so by building a platform that's global, you can suddenly start seeing, what people idolize, what people respect, what people need, what people want. It's a really interesting concept. And I'm super, I guess, honored just to be part of it. And with it, we want to build it out so other communities can get involved. And so one thing we're building out, and that's still in a very like alpha sort of stage, is a Quidd Clubhouse, where we want to be able to get users from Quidd to come in and share their collectibles and to own a space in it, interact with it, and everything of the sort.
That's actually pretty cool. There you go.
That'd be amazing.
You learned something.
Yeah, it's really like pre-alpha right now, right? Because it's a lot of development, but like it would be so cool if, I don't know, let's say we have condominiums in there, right? Where Quidd users can own a condo and you can design it how you want and invite your friends, or maybe give out keys so your friends can come visit, and really create a space that is not only yours and like a Zoom meeting, let's say, because a Zoom meeting is just a link, but it's a place that is personalized to you, to what you've done, to what you've collected. And so when you have your friends come in, you go, oh my God, you've got a Mr. Beast, whatever, or you've got a Fluttershy from My Little Pony, or you've got this, poster from Summer at the Cinema. I don't know. It's a way we're just trying to build. It's something we're just trying to build so people can take the collectibles they earn and show it off in any sort of format, whether it's physical or, I guess in this case, digital.
So would that be similar to like some of the? I know that there's like NFT galleries. Are you thinking it would be something similar to that? But I mean, if we could show off our Quidd stuff, because there's a lot of users who used to show them off. We had something pretty much similar to like what we have in app now, like storyboards, where they were showcases, is I think what they were called. Spider, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, they were showcases. I was waiting for you to say shelfies. I was going to showcases.
No, not those. But people when they would pull something, I mean, each person has their own personal grail, and then when you hit a #1 print, that's always been something that's always been exciting for anybody on the app. You hit a #1, you want to show it off somewhere. So that's something I could get behind for sure. That sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're trying to get some Quidd users involved that, we're very active on our social media. So if you talk to us, we'll throw you codes or whatever. And there's one person in particular I want to shout out, which is Paradox Cycle, which he got a little pre-showing around of the Quidd Clubhouse and gave us a bunch of notes for it. So we really want to build out this space so it's a place for Quidd users. It's not like we don't want to build out a space and then just be like, oh, enjoy it. We really want to get the community involved as much as possible.
That'd be
for sure
amazing, especially for some of us have really old that we don't really have anything we can do with right now. So having stuff 2016, 2017 that we could use there to show off, look what we have, that'd be amazing.
Absolutely. What would be the oldest collection on Quidd, just to give me a little history?
I came on and started Five Nights at Freddy was the first one. That's what brought me to Quid. And then I moved to so those are probably your two oldest collections that you could go look at on Quid.
That's crazy. Yeah, Five Nights at Freddy's. What a trend that was. Like that blew up out of nowhere.
Huge for a while. And I hear they're making a movie that's been in the works for a while, but I think they finally have like a director and then they're casting for it. So, you know, I came in because of my kids. So I have two little boys that were into FNAF. That was like their, so of course they got on Quid and left after about 2 weeks because, you know, they were young and it didn't really interest them as much as it did, but then I was stuck. I stayed forever. So
yeah, well, and that movie is going to be the most horrifying movie in the world. It's going to be more scarier than The Grudge, Conjuring, everything. Like, just that video game itself is so terrifying. If they make a movie out of that, like, I don't think I can see it. It's too scary.
It's got me every time, even when I was expecting, still do. So I can imagine the movie. Pretty fun.
How awesome. And so, yeah. Please go ahead.
I was gonna say, I know we have coming up. You have the Bored Ape Social Club. I believe that's brought to you. I know I've seen the drop. My question is about the alcohol. What can you tell us about the alcohol?
It's really good. I'm not a huge.
It's really good.
It's really good. I try not to drink too much. But my dad. It's primarily my dad's project, the Bored Ape Social Club. So that's something I know Yatsui is on the board of the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And so my dad was thinking, like, why don't we make a wine and spirits brand for the Bored Ape community, right? It's like, it's so perfect so that you can just bring a bottle of Bored Ape wine or a Bored Ape vodka to a party. And it's like definitely the center of attention. And every time I brought a bottle to a friend's house, they're always like, oh my God, what is this? I'm like, Bored Ape Social Club. You don't know what this is? You don't know what pop culture is? Come on. and it is a really, really, really good bottle of wine. Like if I have one in the house, I'm compelled to drink it because it's just a very solid, everyday kind of wine. I think it's made in Argentina from an organic winery, and it's just delicious. I can't really go further about that. And then the vodka, I think it's like either a triple distilled or a 6 times distilled vodka, but I don't want to give any hard answers on that because I would have to get that from my dad. But it's a very, very good vodka as well.
So you're going to send us a bottle, right?
Yeah.
We get to try this out, right? It's a thing?
We've sent out a few bottles to a couple people at Quidd, so send me your addresses and we'll get you some bottles. Like if you weren't on that list, get on the list. We'll get you some.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't have to tell me. I'll go find the list.
Ask Olivia. I think she said really good things about it. And then
okay.
Yeah, and so this it's really fun doing a 21 and over project too, because we have to figure out also a system to age verify because we don't want to accidentally send out, bottles of wine to like an 8-year-old. But the age verification should be pretty simple. And I'm really excited for the drop. And we're giving away a highlight item for the #1 collector, which is an actual Rolex that we had designed with one of the Bored Apes in it. And it's a very expensive Rolex, as you can imagine. And it was really funny when the Rolex first came and my dad was showing me it. He was going to Mexico like a day later and he was like, oh my God, should I bring this to Mexico and wear it? And I was like, Dad, you don't want to go to a foreign country and then get mugged over a monkey watch. Like that's not the article in the Daily Mail you want. And so it's sitting at home safe and sound.
I saw that.
What made you decide to go with the Rolex?
So the Bored Ape community, it seems like a very high roller community, right? It's people who are spending tens of thousands or sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars on an NFT. And the NFT utility is really the clout, right? It's you buy it so you say I'm part of this community, and if there's future projects coming up, you're part of those future projects, but a lot of it is clout. And so when you think Bored Ape, what do you think? You don't think like the Gap. You think Hermes, Rolex, Louis Vuitton, Bugatti, things like that. yachts.
Yeah.
I don't know any yacht brands. If you guys know any yacht brands, feel free to throw them out. And so we're like, yeah, Rolex, that's perfect. It's something, it's a collectible that people already collect watches, and it's something you can wear on your wrist so you can show it off very easily. And it just seemed like the perfect item to give. And I really like watches as well. So, and my dad likes watches. So it just seemed like very intuitive just to do a Rolex.
So effectively, it's like giving a piece of what you guys love to other collectors in a sense.
In a way, I think, like going back to what you were saying, a lot of collection and giving is a way of sharing essentially your love of people. When you give out a gift, it's a way of saying, hey, I was thinking of you and I got this. But a gift it's two ways, right? It's one is you're thinking about the other person, but your bias is also in there because you think, what would I like to give as a gift? So in terms of like the posters and the art that we give, my dad being in this whole like archiving space, he would always give me like art frames and art prints and things like that. When I was young and, when I was in high school and sitting around, my dad would come home one day with like a really cool art print that was signed by an artist. And he said, hey, I got this for you. And when I was young, I didn't necessarily care that much about prints, but my dad really cared about prints. And it was his way of showing love to me. And in a way, I guess you could say that is that, giving a Rolex, if that's something like that I would personally collect and that my father would personally collect, it's us thinking, well, we love this, and so other people must love this. And, we want to give part of that love that we have out to the community.
Yeah, I'd say that gives it a little bit more meaning too behind it, since it's something you and your dad both share a love for and a passion for. To me, that adds more value, right? Because anytime I collect it, like there's a lot of stuff I collect, and I get my, I've got my kids into collecting. Like again earlier, like I was saying, I collect Funko, and then I got my daughter into collecting Funko. I got my son into collecting Funko, and they follow the same trends. Like they were opening, and now like they're all inbox collectors, and my kids aren't too old. Like my son just turned 15 and my daughter's 20, and they still have that passion of like wanting to collect. But that was like how I could extend like a piece of myself to them, because then other people grow to love it. Because I don't necessarily collect watches, but I know people who have, and some of the watches I've seen, like those are really cool. And so that's really cool, because this kind of meets both of the criteria of like, it's both you and your dad, and it's representing the Bored Ape Social Club at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
I love
it's
how you explained it. I love how you just
far more eloquently
explained that.
Far more eloquently than I could ever explain it.
Well, I meant you,
and-
Hayden, but
I'm
I love
flattered.
how you explained the story with your dad. Exactly, that is how it is with children, and I'm the same way with my kids, and the same thing. My kids do the same thing, so it's like we just pass it down generationally.
Yeah. One thing that was like really sweet, and this is just a story with my dad. I love my dad a lot, by the way. He's one of the most amazing people I know. Whenever he goes running on the beach, he always collects like little seashells. And like, if there's like a dried starfish or something, he'll pick it up and take it home. And then what he'll do is if he's like out for a run, he'll have a seashell in his pocket. And if he sees a kid and like out with their family, he'll drop that seashell on the ground for them. And so the kid gets that discoverability of seeing like a seashell and going like, oh my God, look what I found, Mom, Dad, this is so cool. And it's like, it adds that magic to the world, right? And there's something so brilliant. And I was really, I don't think when I was young, I really understood the gravitas of it. But as I got older, I really did, where my dad and I went for a hike and we packed up a little Gatorade bottle and we put seashells and like a little letter in it where we singed the sides and, some like little coins and whatever. And we threw it out into the ocean. And 10 minutes later, it washed up and he saw a kid discovering this bottle that was filled with like surprises. And, for me, it's like, we know what we did, that we were giving out this like little gift to someone that was just random. But to this person who discovered it, was probably the most magical experience of their life. They probably thought it came from a foreign country and they got a message in a bottle. It's like a Gatorade bottle, but they thought it was like this message in a bottle. And it like, I hope that person who discovered that is A, not listening to the story, and B, still has like some sort of magic and memory from that.
That's
Children
really
believe
cool.
in that magic.
Yeah,
That brings it alive.
there's something about like the magic of collecting, right? Because another cool thing, and you know what, let me be right back again. So I apologize. I should have had this prepared ahead of time.
Running off to go get
See,
something.
we're not the only ones who aren't always prepared. See, we just
Yeah,
can't make
no,
this up
for
as
sure.
we go.
This is something that
amazing,
I really love, and I'm actually really happy we're giving it away, even though I really want it for myself. But we, for the Around the World in 80 posters.
Oh God, he's showing the book. I've been complaining about wanting
Yeah,
this
right.
book.
It's
I've been
100
talking about how that book.
Well, you just got to win the chase. So it's like a 150-year-old book, and it's so delicate. And when you smell it, it smells like tobacco, because I imagine it was in someone's study in the past where they were reading it, smoking a big old pipe. And like, I say tobacco in a really good way. And it's like the pages are kind of browning, and it's in like an original sleeve still. And it's so beautiful. And when you look at it, like the magic comes from the history as well, where this thing, you know, it's been around longer than any of us, right? Someone created this 150 years ago, and it's been sitting on shelves, and it's just, I don't know, there's something so beautiful about it, just because of the tying into like human history and our humanity around it, right? It's a cultural artifact. And I'm just like, I'm kind of sad we're giving it away just because I love books so much, but I really hope someone who appreciates the magic of history and literature gets so much love out of this. I'm going to put it down now because it's just way too delicate.
I think you just convinced even more so. I have to have it now. There's certain smell with pipe tobacco that just, I don't know, the aroma of pipe tobacco, it's different than regular tobacco. It just makes you smell. I don't actually know how to explain it, but I know what you meant by smell. But that history of that book and the writer himself is, I'm a huge book freak. I read constantly. Yeah, absolutely would love to have that. Whoever gets it is very lucky.
I mean, look how just blackened the page is, like the front cover page. It's like, oh, I don't even want to turn it anymore. You know what? I'm not going to turn it anymore. I'm not going to risk it. I don't want this to get damaged live on stream. Way too embarrassing. But, and like, as someone, when I was like 19, I thought it was cool. So I used to smoke a pipe as well. And there is like an aromatic tobacco you can get, which is flavored with vanilla. And it does make the house smell really good. It's much different than cigarettes. It's like a very satisfying smell. And I have to stay away from it because I would continue to smoke it. But it's, there's just something wonderful about it.
Is that book from your like personal collection?
No, we bought this specifically for the drop. If I don't know if I could give this away if it was from my personal collection, but
yeah, I don't know. You seem like you guys are pretty generous, so you never know.
Yeah, my dad is probably the most charitable person in the world. He was actually blessed by the Pope. He has a scroll from Pope John Paul for a lot of charity work he did when he was in Thailand, where they helped set up an orphanage. And he has a whole story about that, so I don't want to tell his story, but he is probably one of the most giving men I've ever met in my life.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you're kind of the same. I mean, you look. It sounds like you. I always like to hear stories where somebody is that close to somebody in their family, especially like when it's a parent. And it sounds like you and your dad have a great relationship, and you like work together. So he shared a lot of that passion, and you can tell it's passed down to like some of what you've put together, like some of the stuff you've brought to Quid and everything like that. So you sharing that passion, your dad has that passion, you share it with us, and then we're sharing the passion with our kids even. So it's kind of a roundabout a way that we're all sharing these same passions. It's all passing down from somebody who's just charitable. So I like hearing stories like that. It's very warming.
Well, I'm glad to share them. And yeah, I'm very blessed because I also see, some friends who don't have like the best relationships with their parents. I just really love my dad. I don't know how to explain it. And it's also one of those things, I think when I was younger, I didn't appreciate it. As I'm 29, I'm about to turn 30. And so being nearly in my 30s, there's like such an appreciation for it now that I don't think I had when I was like a stubborn 16-year-old where I was like, no, I don't want to do this, Dad. So, And if there's
We're all
anyone,
like that though. All like that. We all go through that phase. You can't appreciate them until you can see what they've done, and you're a little wiser. And I think we all go through that phase though, where we don't appreciate later on when we grow up that what they've given us, the world, and the rest of their family. It's amazing to see such a relationship.
yeah, and like being able to bring along like to Quid a lot of our friends has been really great too. Todd has been a really long time family friend. I think I knew Todd since I was like 10, and being able to get his stuff onto the Quid platform, like even that's special, right? Because you're able to share the work that he's done and the work that he does to a global audience, and not just sharing to a global audience, but having it so like well receptive, where the like people on Quid love his stuff, and so it makes him feel good and makes us feel good, and it's like it's just like a big sharing party essentially, just like all giving. I love it.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm just like I'm thinking of like all he's done. Is there anybody else that you've brought us? I don't want to like if there's anybody else or any other person that you brought us, anybody in the works. Maybe you can hint at that you're trying to bring to Quid. Maybe.
Let me check my calendar because we have a lot in the works. Like so I've got a list right now of about 100 awards I have to send out, and that's going to be. I was saying before this, before we went live, I'm going to be up to my ankles in shipping materials for all of this. The artist who did the Nyaching, they might do their own personal drop with their stuff. A wonderful artist named Kumi from Squared Bear, and so we're hoping to get them on. And we've got one of the projects I'm most excited for, which is the Comic-Con Lotteria. And this is a project being done by the Comic-Con Metaverse. It's their own original IP. If you looked up the Lotteria is it's a game that came out about 400 years ago, and the whole point is it's kind of like bingo, but it's more fun. Where instead of calling out a number, you kind of tell a story and you say the card name within the story, and you have to try to catch the card name. And so we're doing a version of it for Comic-Con, where it's all different superheroes and superhero motifs and things they go through, like cybernetic enhancements, magical objects. One of my favorites is card number 1, actually, which is Law Invisibility. If I see you have it on your screen, if you can double click on it. If it will load. And this is just like, from what they did, it's like my favorite card of all time, right? It's just invisibility.
It's perfect.
Yeah. And I forgot what he calls himself, but the God King of the Comic-Con metaverse, the professor, the man in the high chair, he's the guy behind the scenes who runs the entire metaverse. He's the head mod. He's someone you want to be on his good side with. All of this was like his idea and all of his work. So it's also one of those things where the person I'm talking about, the professor, is one of my longtime friends as well. So this is like seeing his creativity come to life. And I'm just like so excited about it because he did such a great job on it. And I saw the work that went into this project, and he put in so much work to make sure everything is like perfectly comics. And he is a guy who has like bankers boxes, like those big boxes that are white that are filled with comic books. One time he picked me up in his car, and the back seat was filled with these comic books. So this is like the perfect project for him, and I'm so glad that he's finally like executed it and gotten it out there. And I'm just really excited to share it with the Quid community. It's not finished yet. It will hopefully be finished soon. There's a few cards we need to do some edits for, but when this goes out, I hope everyone loves it just as much as I do. And I don't know if they've confirmed this, but I believe they're creating the actual board game version of it too, where if you are a Quid collector, you can get the board game as an award. I still need to double check on that. But also you can buy the physical board game and play it as a game, as this was meant for. It's meant to be played with friends, where one person's the caller and everyone else is trying to match their tiles and icons and everything. So it's really cool just to see this all come together.
Yeah, it sounds like something we could potentially turn into a community game even. I mean, if you know the rules, I don't know the rules. It looks like Kid Cutter knows the rules. It looks like he's played it before. But it would be something maybe we could try to. I mean, Spider, you could let me know what you think if we could try to figure out a way to like play this with the community even.
I don't see why not. I think we could figure something out. It's a game. I mean, there's got to be a way we could figure out to operate the community into a game with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is something we could bring into the Quid Clubhouse where everyone can stand around. And I know Matt's dream would be to be the actual caller for the game because he's a guy who loves bingo. We were in Vegas for his Dirty 30 like a couple years ago. And I remember like everything I had, was this Dirty 30 or bachelor party? Doesn't matter. But everything I had planned out. He was like, no, I want to go to Red Rocks and I want to play bingo. I was like, okay, we're playing bingo. So we could figure out how to set this up in the Quid Clubhouse. And I can shoot a message. I'll wait till after we're done. But we can like get everyone involved and actually figure out how to hand out the proper 16 by 16 cards where people can play. And we could offer like different awards within the Quid Clubhouse. So we could turn this into an actual real life game or digital game, which I guess is
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Kind of both. Pretty cool. I didn't know the whole history of this. It's kind of cool that there's so much more behind it than I realized when I just saw the cards. A lot more special.
Yeah, it originated, I believe, in Italy, and then it migrated west through Spain and then into Latin America. So this game is very, I think, pronounced in prominent in Latin America, but it's basically more fun bingo, which I'm down for. I mean, bingo's fun as is, but being able to have someone who's like a creative talent telling a story behind each card and just throwing in like the word La Invisibility in there, and you have to try and listen for it. And if you catch it, you're like, oh, I got that. Put it down. Because then you could end up, if you're not paying attention, you could end up missing something and then losing the game because of it.
That does sound like more fun bingo.
It does. Exactly.
Because you have to pay attention.
Exactly. Much more attention. A lot closer to catch those things. That makes it even more fun.
Yeah. And, we've got so much other fun stuff in the pipeline. We're doing a Nyaching Christmas. So we're doing a Christmas series. And Nyaching is also getting a brother named Wanching, which hasn't been introduced yet, but will be coming soon. I just sent you these are preliminary, just so like a little bit of the back end to see what we do. I sent a little like preliminary how we like figure out the Nyachings. And then I think Florida Cat is also very interested in doing another drop as well. So it would be fun to do part 2 of Florida Cat, which I thought is a really cool drop because they want to actually create this as a proper show that they're pitching, and the way they're kind of announcing their intentions to the world and what they're building and the worlds they're building is through Quid, through all of the showing the characters, showing the sets and everything. So it's a way for basically these Quid collectors to get a very first look at a proper TV show that's in the process of being created.
Yeah, and it probably helps them out too, because I mean, essentially it puts this ground floor, right, where we get to see kind of some of the first assets that are out there to the world, but it probably helps them as well, because if they're going to pitch, they're like, hey, check out these assets. There's already some demand here. Like, people are interested in this, so they can maybe use that hopefully they can use that to their benefit. I don't know exactly how it works when you're pitching a show, but that'd be my first thing. Like, hey, check this out. Like, you pull up the ad, like, we already created these assets. People are buying them. People love it.
Yeah, that's exactly like what we were thinking too. It's like, if you're making this TV show, and I don't know like the fine details of the showbiz industry, but I imagine it's really tough to get something in front of an executive, no matter who you are. I mean, the people who were involved with Florida Cat are some very prominent people, but it's still probably very difficult in order to get something in front of an executive for them to sign you a check for a couple $1 million in order to produce your show, right? So to be able to actually get that engagement and kind of test the waters to see how people feel about it, and then show like, hey, like we actually have some passionate people who really love Florida Cat and think it's really funny. It's wonderful. And I thought it was really cool what they did too was because Florida Cat, like sometimes you can't time things less perfectly, because when Florida Cat dropped, we had the horrible hurricane that happened, and we're like, oh no, like, you know, this is like really not the time to do it. But the Florida Cat people immediately set up a GoFundMe in order to try and like raise some money for the hurricane, which I thought was very special and also very like observant of what was happening. And their show is really cool because it's a show that is both kind of making fun of Florida, but also a celebration of Florida, because it's a show where you have like characters who are Florida stereotypes. And so you have, you know, obviously negative stereotypes, but also positive stereotypes of like freedom loving and, you know, wanting to go like celebrate and party and free living. Like, I think what they're doing is really solid, and I would love to have them back on Quid. I know they're preparing, I think, like 36 new pieces of IP that once they're finished, we're going to send over to Quid to see if we can book it into Quid's ever more getting busy time slots.
Yeah, we would. I know there's some people who would love some of that. So one of the people in the chat, Dark Side, he lives in Florida, and he made sure that he collected that drop with the generator. He had to make sure he still got it.
Cheers. Like that's
it's pretty cool when you see people like that. You know, like you look up the names, you start doing research, you're like, oh, like this guy's worked on like Rick and Morty. Like I think one of them is actively still working on Rick and Morty. So when you see people like that they have an idea and they're like, you know, let's, you know, like you said, you test the waters and see how well it fares out on an app where there's collectors like Rick and Morty's on here, and there's other stuff that's very similar to that, because that cartoon looks adult themed, which I mean that's all I care about. Like, give me some adult jokes. I don't want to watch a kids show necessarily, unless it's like something like SpongeBob, because SpongeBob never gets old.
Very true.
I mean,
that's really nice.
Yeah, I mean, you got really funny characters on there, and one of the things that I love about the whole show they're doing is that it's going to be a lot of the based off the Florida Man stories. I don't know if you don't know what that is. Basically, I don't know what's up with the news from Florida, but a lot of news comes out of Florida of really like interesting things. So like one of the episodes, I think it's like someone like stole an alligator, and so it's about Florida Cat going out and stealing an alligator. And there's like different characters who are more like mild mannered to trying to keep him like, you know, more calm, but other characters who are then trying to hype him up, like, yeah, let's go do this. Like it's going to be fun. It's definitely an adult theme show. And then what I love with it too is all these people we work with are friends. So Matt Carpenter, he was at our place maybe 2 weeks ago, and we had lunch with him, right? And so we're sitting having lunch, just talking about life and talking about everything going on in the world. So it's not like you're dealing with these nameless executives where they just like, you know, here's some stuff, go do whatever. It's like you can actually sit and grab lunch and sit outside, enjoy the sun. There's something just so wonderful about it, right? It's kind of like working with a giant family, a giant crazy extended family, because everyone here is an artist and all artists are out of their minds, but also we are too. So it works perfect. And it's just fun. It's a really fun platform to be bringing content for Quid. I really love the platform, and I love the potential of Quid, that like how it could grow, and the difference as well between like the cash grab NFTs, where NFTs are those like, you know, one of one profile pictures with some sort of utility, right? Quid actually has like a gamification structure and is giving out real life awards, and I think the real life awards really sets it amongst any other platform.
Agreed 100%. I know that's one of the things that typically when I'm looking at chases, like when I decide to do them, I look at what the awards are. And as soon as they started, it's been something that I know we've done in the past. There was like physical awards, but when you give people, like this is a community that's been here for 6 years, and you give them a chance to own something physical and basically take what they collect on Quid and put it in their in real life collection where they could show it off and tell the story about it. It adds a different element to it. Because I myself, I don't know if you're familiar with like the John Doe's Identity. I'm really into the stuff that he had brought us. And so as soon as I seen there was potential of winning a physical item, it piqued my interest even more. And I think the fact that you guys have continued to do this, where you're offering these great items. I mean, that book. When I seen that book, I'm like, "There's no way that's real." And I know Spider's like, "I want that so bad. I want that book so bad." And then you see the content behind it. You're like, "These are really well done." Like some of the cinema posters. Again, going back to that is you gave a physical item, and so the people who chased are truly like you're reaching out to people who are truly passionate about the collecting aspect, which is what I feel is important in most communities, especially something like with Quid, where you want people to collect because you want people to love your stuff. You don't want the cash grab, like you said. You don't want a cash grab NFT one of one that may or may not have utility. You want something that's tangible that you could have in your hands, and you're essentially providing that.
Yeah, I mean, at the Los Angeles Comic Con, probably the biggest item that people are interested in is collectibles. So I'm actually looking at LA Comic Con. People, 51% of the time when they buy something at LA Comic Con is a physical collectible. Because people, there's so many reasons for it. If I walk through LA Comic Con, there's so many people selling Funkos, and there's like so many people feeling like I forgot they're like Pop Mart, I believe they're called. But everyone loves collection for so many reasons, to show their favorite brands or their favorite IP. And when I say brands and IP, I'm not talking about like, oh, I like Nike because it's Nike. I'm talking about you like, I don't know, Persona 5 figurine because you were a huge fan of that game. And the reason you're a huge fan of that game is because that video game maybe spoke to you. It maybe taught you a lot about yourself. I mean, like Persona 5 and the soundtrack and everything is just so freaking brilliant to me, where I want everything Persona 5. And my girlfriend, when we first started dating, I remember she bought me a collector's edition of Persona 5, which I haven't opened up yet and played because I would feel too bad about opening it up. And every time and here's the thing, every time I look at this game, I think of her. So she's like permanently in my brain from now on. Whenever I come into the living room and I look, I'm like, oh, Persona 5. Oh, girlfriend. Like it's like one of those things that it reminds you of an occasion, right? It reminded me, when I look at it, it reminds me of my birthday and when we were first starting to date, her caring enough about my interests and just, listening because, with her, she doesn't care about video games at all, but she knows I care about them. And I cared about this one specifically. And just her picking that up and buying it for me means the world. And then something like Los Angeles Comic Con, where why would you buy this Funko? Okay, maybe you have got a similar story to me, but also it's a memento from an event you were at, where when you look at this Funko, you go, oh, I remember being at the Los Angeles Comic Con. I remember the friends I made there. I remember the photos I took. I remember the stages I watched and the brands I smelled and the lack of deodorant I smelled and like everything, right? You remember the whole experience. And there's something about these collections that matter like that. And I think Quid has a huge like opportunity and fan base who feels the same way, especially when they're communicating with each other in Discord. I mean, I'll poke in there every now and then when there's a new drop, and everyone goes crazy about things, and not just like going crazy about the collections too. Also, how do I get the number one? How do I get the number two? Who will trade me this for this? Is it, and in some collections, people look at it purely also fiscally too, where they go, is it worth buying this pack because I can resell them later on? And, you'll get advice from the community saying, yes, this pack will be worth it because you can resell it, or no, it won't, or wait till the aftermarket. I mean, it's like really watching a communal experience happening and all in real time. And I imagine with everyone in Quid, when they collect, they kind of keep those memories around of how they were talking about a collection and how they were collecting together.
They do.
Oh, 100%.
I can vouch for that. We talked for hours on end about certain drops we've had, certain collections we've got, the stuff that happened around it, people that helped you, and how it was dropped, how cool it was. I mean, there's so many stories in Quid of all those different things. So going forward, it'll be the same way. Having a real life item, it makes a lot of difference too in somebody's life, like that they have a side of them that doesn't understand what they're doing on Quid, collecting digital collectibles. I mean, there's been many times I've been excited about getting something and it's on the app, and I've got my mom looking at me like I'm insane because she just does not get what I'm doing. But having that physical item go and look what I got from this app that I'm on. It's a total experience.
Yeah, and that's also one thing I think with Globe Photos that my dad I think is crazy smart on, and he's trying to figure out a way to incorporate a NFT collectible with the actual physical collectibles. And there's something really special about that too, because something like a certificate of authenticity, it's, you get this to certify that this is your piece of art, but they can also be counterfeit, right? If I wanted to, I can just go type up a file. I mean, I have templates for COAs and I could print something out, right? But being able to offer it in a digital format that's on a blockchain, it makes it so that item is tied to the blockchain and you don't really it's kind of like it's a proof of custody. And that proof of custody comes from this item on the blockchain that can't be replicated, that you can see where it came from and you can see the transactions. So I think in these kind of spaces, there's a lot of further than collecting, there's a lot of potential custodial power. So when people would come over and see your actual collectible, they go, oh, this is a real collectible. You can see where it is online. It's 100% mine, and there are no counterfeits like it. And if someone attempts to make a counterfeit, well, you can prove it wrong instantly.
Yeah, that is very true. I mean, there's a lot of I'm kind of dealing with potential counterfeits right now because I have a bunch of different things I like to collect. I consider it at this point it's hoarding because I always change my mind on what I want to collect. It's always one thing or another. Because at one time it was like, oh, I'll collect sports cards. Because growing up, I collected sports cards with my dad. That was our thing. We would do. We'd go to the sports card shop. He would buy a box of cards and then he'd let me open a few packs. And then I started, that's where I started collecting like Marvel and everything like that. And now it's like, well, I do Funko and then I collect autographs. And I've actually purposely bought fakes just so I could kind of know to look out for them or how worried I should be. I have counterfeit Funko in my collection, specifically for the fact of how good are these? And they're really good, and it scares me. That's why I'll never buy Grails, like your original Funko from 2012, 2013, because of how well done the counterfeits are. So that is one of the things that I think there is a future for the NFTs is a form of authenticating an item. Because like you said, you could quickly shut down that's not the original. This is it. This is the only one. Here's it. It's coming from the creator. This is it. Yours is just some knockoff because I've seen a bunch of those.
Yeah, you go on Quid and you see, okay, there's only 500 available, right? And there's no other ways to replicate them because it's on Quid. It's in this marketplace. No one else can have it. And if you're being offered an award for it too, well, if someone, let's say, prints out a poster just randomly on their computer or their printer or whatever, you go, okay, they may have that, but I actually have the chain of custody that shows that I won the ticket from a chase and this poster is mine. So it's really, really intelligently done. And I really love it. Being on Quid is probably one of the best projects I've ever worked on in my life. And I've worked on a lot of projects. And it's fun because it's intuitive and it's just, you get to exercise creativity. And it's just really also logic too. It just makes sense. And yeah, it's fun bringing brands to Quid. It's fun bringing you guys the Lotteria and Yachting, the Bored Ape Social Club with a Rolex, and around the world in 80 posters with this actual book. And then also the Lotteria coming up, which I'm super excited about. It's an absolute pleasure to bring all these.
Yeah, I know we all appreciate it. That's for sure. Because I don't think there's been.
I'm
one
looking
thing.
for everything that's coming up. Sorry, I think lag, so I'm talking over you, but I don't think I'm excited to see everything else that's coming up.
We have a lot in the pipeline, and we're also just a small team, right? It's me, my dad, and a few other people who do some work part-time with us, and the artists we work with. So it's a very small, tight-knit team, and we love getting back to the community. You guys are always free to message me on Pop Culture on Twitter at any time. We love to get feedback, advice, criticism. Just yell at me for something if you want to, but hopefully not. And it's just a really fun adventure these past, I think it's been about 8 months now, and it's been a very, very fun adventure.
Great.
For sure it has. I'm excited. I'm excited for the things that are to come because I mean, you keep doing the physical stuff. I mean, you're gonna continue to have people interested because I know that's what draws a lot of people in. Is like, oh, what are they gonna give away this time?
Yeah, I mean, this Rolex is our biggest item yet. It's like kind of maybe fiscally irresponsible to give an award this big, but it's definitely emotionally lots of fun, and hopefully someone gets to wear it. I would just suggest if you do wear it, make sure you wear it somewhere safe because it's an actual Rolex. So like, it's just be safe with it. Don't be flashing it around too much in random areas.
Agreed. Awesome. Well, I mean, it's been about an hour, and I mean, I appreciate you coming on and everything. I wasn't sure. I know you're busy, and I know Comic-Con and everything was coming up because I know this has kind of been a couple weeks. So I appreciate you joining up and giving us a little history
It's
on
going to
everything.
be even more busy now. Physical stuff to send out to his ears and packages.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I was in Discord and I had people asking me yesterday, like, oh, is this shipped? And I'd be like, we got the list, we're shipping everything out. And then someone else messaged me like, oh, do you know what the status is? I was like, no, we got the list for everything. We're getting ready to ship it all out. So we're working on that. We're going to be working on that through the weekend. And will you both be at the Los Angeles Comic-Con?
I will not,
No,
unfortunately.
Oh, you should come.
In Illinois, so I'm way far away. I have 2 kids. It was kind of a last minute thing that I wasn't aware of. So if we do it again next year, I'm going to be there.
Yeah, please. We're having a Quid booth there, and they're going to be right across from the Comic-Con Metaverse, and it's going to be so much fun. I know we have the Florida Cat guys coming in to do some signing, and it's, for me personally, it's going to be really fun meeting everyone from Quid in person. So if you do find last minute coming out, always welcome. I hope that happens. If not, I really hope you come next year so we can meet next year.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to pictures. I hope there's lots of pictures taken because I have to live vicariously. So.
Oh, Aruba and I are just going to be partying together the entire time. It's going to be so much fun.
Hear some stories, I guess, off Comic-Con.
Awesome. Well, it's great being here. And I do sadly, I have to run, but I really appreciate being on this podcast.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, man. And maybe we can have you back in the future to some of the other drops. Like anytime you're always welcome.
Yeah, I love it.
Or the item that they decide to give away, have you back on then. You can announce it. It'll be next.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're going to have to be like Mr. Beast and give out a Lamborghini.
There you go.
Catch up. Awesome.
You have a good night.
You too. Thank you guys so much.
All right. Thank you, Hayden.
Bye.
Bye. I don't know how to exit this.
I think you could
Sounds
just
like me the first time.
You could just close it. I think you just close it up top.
All right. And hold on. I'm just trying to read through chat. I didn't see anyone in chat's name because I wasn't looking at it, but I appreciate everyone being here. Thank you. Bye.
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 I was wondering how to leave.
I think you did, and I think it like froze on the thing. Awesome. Well, there's some hints. I mean, we got to see this Lotteria. That sounds like it's upcoming. That's something exciting. Yeah, I think this was a pretty good stream.
Thanks, so do.
Oh, and I showed myself on video.
You did. It's like a momentous occasion.
Yeah.
Everybody mark it in the calendar.
It is.
I didn't.
Awesome.
I won't. So
we may have another special guest next week. I just have to get some confirmations and everything. Just to make sure schedules still align. It is the holidays. I appreciate everybody joining because it is the day before Thanksgiving. I know people are probably still shopping last minute. I know if Taka fans still in here, I know you're in Canada or anybody else who's outside of the United States. I know Canada's already done theirs, but there is shopping that people are probably doing. So I appreciate everybody joining us tonight, especially with the holiday tomorrow. But until next
Thank
week,
you.
again, once I get confirmation if we're gonna have our special guest next week, you'll see me. I'll tweet it out. Spyder will probably put something in app. We'll try to hype it up a little bit. But
Yep.
yeah,
And we're already planning for guests after that, so we've got to hopefully it'll all work out.
Hopefully, it probably will. Things always seem to work out somehow.
Yeah, they do.
Awesome.
It'll work out one
Well,
way or the
until
other.
next week. Until next week. Later, Quidiots. I'm sticking with it. Bye.
Goodbye.